Retirement as you know it, it's a slow death. Not because you stop working, but because you stop living with purpose.
This video isn't about whether you should retire or not. It's about avoiding disappearing once you do. And in today's world, rethinking retirement isn't optional, it's survival.
And when we first retired in December of 2018, we really ran into trouble, didn't we?
We did. We both thought we had and did all we were supposed to do for retirement. We had saved the money, we had put it aside, we had managed our investments. We actually worked pretty hard on managing our expenses. And if you notice, everything I talked about was all about money.
And the beauty of it was we now owned our calendar. We were time affluent. We could do whatever we wanted to do, when we wanted to do it, and who we wanted to do it with. But it didn't feel right. Something was wrong. Something was missing. And I think what was missing was this whole idea of purpose and not having a reason to get up in the morning. So we've spent the last 4 years really on this YouTube channel and the coaching we've done and the research, rethinking this entire phase of life. And we're going to tell you more about that in this video, because this video is not about not to retire,
right,
but it's about how to retire differently so that it's much more successful and you live with purpose.
You know, we realized that we retired away from our careers, but we didn't step into anything. We didn't have any new plan. We didn't redefine anything else in our life other than our expenses and our finances. So that's what we're here to help you with today.
So people get this screwed up for the following reasons. Number one, we have always been told that retirement is the time to stop, to slow down, to take it easy, to really do nothing. And doing nothing is fun for, honestly, now, 4 or 5 years into it, I love to do nothing for an hour or two, maybe even a day. But when we first retired, that first Monday, and then Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, it felt like Saturday every day. And you know, that sounds really great, but honestly, it's not.
Well, really, the old model of retirement really promotes rest. You know, rest, kind of disappearance, what my mom would call beige on beige. You just kind of go off into the oasis. But it doesn't promote really purpose. It doesn't promote action. It doesn't promote a vision. It doesn't promote your health and wellness. And that's what we'd like to change.
So here's a new perspective. We want you to start thinking about redefining what you consider to be success. During our career, success was leading teams and, you know, making some money and, you know, going to work and showing up and being your best version of yourself. Well, now that you don't have work, we want to think about how you can do that in this phase. And we're going to give you 7, what we call our 7 pillars of a successful retirement that you want to start thinking about. And we've named this the discovery years. We're not using the word retirement anymore. We're now using the word the discovery years for this phase of life.
So retirement as you know it is dead. Just wrap your head around that really quick, because you're not going to just sit back and enjoy the fruits of your labor. My other quotes are on this side, the fruits of your labor. But, you know, you are going to enjoy some downtime. You're also going to enjoy some new experiences. You're also going to enjoy learning and development. You're also going to enjoy your health and wellness. And that's really the foundational part of the discovery years. So lose the word retirement out of your vernacular.
You know, I read something the other day that around about 1930 was when I think Social Security was started, and we were talking more about retirement. And frankly, in 1930, I think the life expectancy of a man was 60 and a woman was 64 or 65. Mm-hmm. So if you retired at 60 or 55, you know, retirement, I think slowing down was a good idea back then because you didn't have a long runway. Today, I'm 68, you're 60. I plan on living to 100, and you plan on living to what, 108? So we pass away together? Oh, it's never going to happen, is it?
That would be the opposite.
That's bad math.
That would put me at 92.
Yeah, that's no good.
You're cutting me short.
That's no good. But the thing is, there's a longer runway now. So the idea of slowing down and taking it easy maybe push that off a little bit. That's what we want to talk to you about today.
So let's get to it. Let's talk about our 7 pillars in what we call the discovery years.
So the first pillar is vitality and health. And we used to call this physical wellness. And it does include physical wellness, but this whole idea that motion keeps you alive. You know, it is our core. We just went to the gym this morning at 6:30 together, and moving 5, 6, 7 days a week is so critical to your health. It builds muscle around your bones, it builds stability, endurance, and it helps you with your mental wellness as well.
Yeah, it helps with your blood flow, your cardiovascular, your oxygen levels. It reduces stress, if you can believe that. And on the days when you don't feel like going, like, I'll be honest with you, I didn't feel like going this morning. I was a little kind of fuzzy when I woke up. And I actually said to a woman at the gym today, I'm more proud of myself for going today. You okay?
Yeah, I'm trying to find, there's a book I want to show everybody, but I can't
I'm
find
more
it.
proud of what of going today than I was, on the days that I'm looking forward to go.
There's a book that just came out called Super Agers by Dr. Eric Topol, I think it is. We'll put a link below. I just got it. I haven't read it. I'm not sure I'm going to read it because it's really technical. But here's the thing. He did a study of a group of 85-year-old men and women to determine what is it, and these are healthy men and women, and he wanted to see if it was just the DNA. And we know that DNA has something to do with it and your history of your family, but they were not overweight. They exercised 5 to 7 days a week, and they ate and had nutrition that was healthy. So the number one thing he said that's keeping these folks alive longer and healthier is exercise, building muscle. So that's our first pillar. The second one is it's around relationships,
Meaningful
right?
connections.
Yeah.
Your circle, the circle of friends and the circle of people you put around you really can shape your days. Purpose-driven relationships bring deeper satisfaction. That's just a fact. Connections that help you combat loneliness, because loneliness is really tough in retirement, but you can create connections that help you with that.
And for me, it's for me in particular, it's finding other men that I can have deep, meaningful conversations with. I'm not a sports guy. I don't really follow the news that much. I don't want to talk about politics, but I do want to talk to other men about how I'm feeling and what I'm struggling with, and I want to hear what they're struggling with, and I want to have us help each other, even if we're just listening. So having these deep, meaningful connections is so critical at this time of life. I don't think that you can just go around having light, hey, how you doing, kind of relationships. I don't think it works. And our relationship is important too.
Well, the other thing that I would say, and love to hear from you guys on this, a lot of studies have come out that women create connections quicker and deeper than men do. And I know you've found a real void in your man-to-man connections.
Yeah.
You've been working really hard on the ones that you have, the ones that you need to cultivate, and the ones that you need to, really make sure that you're both getting something out of. I popped in this week, just a quick aside, to a brand new golf club. Didn't know one person, didn't know the course, wasn't even sure my club showed up, at the course. So got there a little discombobulated and was embraced by 18 foursomes of women.
Yeah.
Like immediately.
And it took courage on your part. I know it did. We talked about it, and it paid off.
It definitely took courage, but I would encourage you, if you're, at the point where you can make that step and, the little voice in your head is saying, I don't know if I want to do this, give it a shot. There's all upside. There's really not a lot of downside. If you didn't like it, don't go back.
I just glanced at our notes, and I know at the end of each of these, we wanted to give one thing you could do to implement it. So if I go back to vitality and health, is schedule a 20-minute walk each morning. Just try that. 10 minutes away, 10 minutes back. Try that. And as far as relationships, call a person in your life that's really a meaningful relationship and have a conversation with them. Tell them how much you care about them. Tell them how much you miss them. Tell them what's going on in your life.
Absolutely.
And start that deep conversation.
Now is the time in life to create these connections, and it's okay to put yourself out there. I said to a lady yesterday on the golf course, I said, it's hard to be 60 with your hand out like, hey, I'm Jody. And I'm an extrovert and it's hard for me. So if you're an introvert, I know it's hard for you.
And I'm a self-described introvert, so it's even harder for me.
Yeah, I know.
You're
Yeah, I know.
All right, the third one, partnership and intimacy. So if you're married or you have an intimate relationship, that's what this is about. And it doesn't even have to be a physically sexual, active, intimate relationship, just your best girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever it might be. But Jody and I have worked and continue to work very hard on our relationship because it changes. Whether it's a stay-at-home mom or dad and the other person has a career, all of a sudden when the other person leaves their job and you are finding yourself together for 24 hours a day, worlds can collide. The divorce rate in America is down substantially. But the divorce rate of gray divorce, people 55 and older, I think is double what it was 10 years ago.
Yeah. One of the things I would say is communication is critical at all phases of life. We have kids newly married. We have kids about to get married. We know people who've been married for 30 or 40 years. And then, there's us with a blended family. Communication is critical. And it can only get better with work. And it can only get better if you're intentional about it. And that's a real big part of this partnership and intimacy. The other thing I would say is it's okay in this time of life to dream a little bit together. When we were both in our careers, we didn't have an opportunity to really dream together. It was more about playing whack-a-mole each day is kind of how I would describe it. I don't know if you've ever played that game where the mole pops up and you just keep trying to kind of knock it out. Now is the time, over that cup of coffee or tea or, over that beer or wine at night, whatever your drink of choice is, to talk about what your dreams are.
Yeah.
To share with your partner, hey, I'd like to run a 5K or a 10K, or I'd like to start picking up a new hobby. I've never played tennis, or, I'm thinking about joining a yoga studio, or dream some things together.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you love to go to Australia or whatever your thing is?
Well, here's the one tip for this, partnership and intimacy. Think about starting something new together that you've either never done or one of you might, be a little bit better than the other, but start it together. It could be pickleball. It could be a book club. It could be playing golf together. Painting, gardening. But do something together where you're both kind of starting almost at the same level, like, I don't know how to do this. I don't either. Let's try it and see where it leads you. And if it's not fun, try something else. Buy 2 bicycles and go bike riding every night after dinner. I don't know, but try something together that now you can share in, and it's something that you can talk about. That's really the big takeaway from this for you guys.
The fourth pillar is emotional resilience. Purpose really protects your spirit. Think about that for a second. Purpose really protects your spirit. Direction reduces anxiety, and it also reduces your inner restlessness. You have those days where you're like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, but I don't know what I want to do. That's an inner restlessness, and purpose and direction will help you with that.
Now, there's a big shift that we push people to in this regard, and that's changing from a limited mindset to a growth mindset. And that's, I just want to sit on the couch and watch TV. I don't really want to learn anything new. I don't want to do that. That's okay for a rainy Saturday. But really, again, 10, 20, 30 years ahead of you, you've got to shift your mindset into a growth mindset to try new things. Try the walk in the morning. Try going to the gym. Try pickleball. That helps your mind really stay active and pushes you in ways you've never been pushed before. I'm sure you did it during your career, right?
Right, absolutely. And the one tip in this bucket would be, find a way at the end of the day to maybe journal 3 wins in this area. Three things you did that you really lived all the way through, whether it is, replanting your garden, whether it is just something that you did with purpose and you did it a couple of times in the week.
Well, the next pillar, number 5, is called purpose and contribution. And that's really regurgitating, reusing all of your skills and talents that you've accumulated up until now and put it towards someone or something, people, a cause, to give back, to make the world a better place. Now it sounds like, what can I really do? Well, you as one individual human can do a lot. Our purpose and contribution is this channel. We research, we think, we're trying to give you the latest and greatest ways in which to live this phase of life. We don't talk about the money piece, but we talk about lifestyle. And we test a lot of things and we fail and we succeed. So really finding a way to have impact on the world or your friends or your community beyond your career.
I mean, an example of that would be mentoring, right? Mentoring becomes a legacy. If you were an expert at something, I don't care if you were an expert in a machine shop, if you were a writer, if you were a doctor, if you were a lawyer, if you were an accountant, you were an expert in something. And those are still skills that people are striving for today. And that mentoring can really help become your legacy.
We've been going really deep on trying to find a way to teach, and we are teaching this in our fall masterclass, but how to find your superpower, how to really find, why do people come to you for help? If you start thinking about that and start making a list of all the reasons why people come to you for help, and if you want to know what they are, ask people, what do you think my superpower is? Why do you come to me for help? How have I helped you in the past?
Right.
All of a sudden you get some clarity on what your purpose and contribution can be. So it's a good place to start.
And it can be anything as, like I get shit done.
Yeah.
I mean, people come to me because if you want something done, I'm your girl.
Right.
Like I commit to it and I get it done. But it could be as easy as that. And then how do you take that and pull it through to help others?
Right. Number 6, and this is a new one for us, a couple years old, year and a half, is spiritual growth. This has become more and more important to us as we age. We just have lots of questions, and I'm sure you probably have questions too. So this discovery phase can be a sacred opening now of understanding more about the questions you have. What happens when you die? Is there a God? What does God mean to you? Is there a higher power? What is my higher power? And I think that is a fun way to start explore this because you have time, right?
Well, I think that's a good point because your slower pace, let's hope you have a little bit of a slower pace. We don't want it to be dead stop, but a little bit slower, really invites this soulful living. And that can look like anything you want it to look like. It doesn't have to look like structured spirituality. It can look like your own type of spirituality. You can investigate different types of spirituality. But for us, it really became a really good connection for us to our inner selves.
And we now have a morning ritual. We both have a morning ritual. Part of that morning ritual, we use an app on our phone called, I think, the Bible app. Mm-hmm. So it's a verse of scripture, and then it's a little more writing, and then there's a short 2-minute video. Someone talks about that piece of scripture. And then we started reading one chapter each morning out of the New Testament. We started January 1st.
Yeah.
And I don't know what we'll do when that's over. That'll be over in September. But that's something we added to our morning ritual, and we like it. Is it changing us? We're learning a lot. We're starting to answer, we're starting to find new questions.
Yeah.
Which is good, which leads to the last pillar, which we call growth and discovery.
Yeah, I mean, don't settle, expand, really is the footnote to this growth and discovery. Curiosity keeps your spirit young and alive. That's something that is a fact. And if you're ever a grandparent and you're looking at a 5 or 6 year old, or you're looking after a 5 or 6 year old for a day or a couple of days, you will understand that curiosity and how their spirit stays alive. And it almost makes you want to go back to that time in your life where you asked all the right questions and you asked a lot of the wrong questions.
And if you can grow in this phase of life, in the discovery phase, and learn new things and teach new things, it has an impact on your legacy. And a lot of people don't really understand legacy. They think it's money. What do you leave behind for the kids? That's cool. But really, what will people say at your funeral? And when we both retired at the end of our career, we said if we wrote our obituary then, it was full. But 20 years from now, that's not even going to be in our obituary because it's such old news.
Yeah.
So really continuing to grow and learn moves that story forward, creates new things people get to know you for because you're making a difference. So it really is so critical in this discovery phase to make sure you continue to have the open mind and grow and learn and teach.
Right.
All right,
Absolutely.
we have some questions we got from our team put together from our YouTube channel and people that email us questions, and we haven't studied these yet.
No.
So, the first one's from me.
Okay.
So you ask it. All right.
All right, Mark. How did you personally rebuild your sense of purpose after stepping away from your career? I'm afraid I won't ever find mine again. And that's from Dave in Arizona.
You know, it took a lot of hard work, and I would say, you know, when I first retired in 2018, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I thought that I wanted to stay in the insurance industry where I was, and I wanted to be a sales manager for another agency working 10 hours a week, or a sales coach, or a mentor for some people in the industry. And then I just said no, and I started to reflect. I journaled a lot. I'm a big journaler. So, and I looked for my superpower. I looked for what I like to do. I went back, and we have this exercise we do in our masterclass. We ask you to look at every single job you had since your first job. So I cut grass in a neighborhood. I had a newspaper route, worked at a boatyard, had 3 jobs in college, and I started to write down these jobs. Which ones did I like, and which ones didn't I like? Because I didn't want to get involved in something that I didn't like. And I ended up realizing that I like to serve people. I like to help people change and grow, which led us to this business.
Absolutely.
Did you have the same process? Do you want to answer that too or no?
That was a question to you.
Okay.
The question to me is...
Okay,
Oh.
Jody.
Yep.
You mentioned feeling lost even when everything looked fine. How did you finally name what was going wrong? And this is Susan from Maine. How did you finally name what was going wrong?
Well, I think the first thing that rang true to me was I was always jrollins@chubb.com. Like my entire life was at chubb.com. I was there for 33 years. And the first thing that felt wrong was I kind of felt like I lost my identity. You know, I was no longer a senior vice president. I was no longer leading teams. I was no longer kind of anything in that world. But I had immersed myself so deeply in that world and then the world of our children, and they were all grown, that I was really kind of a double empty nester, right? I empty nested my job at the same time we empty nested the kids. So, you know, I really felt what I labeled adrift. I was just kind of drifting from one place to the next, from one friend group to the next, from one yoga class to the next. I was just not living with any real purpose or schedule or routine. And I felt adrift. And then we came up with the idea that it's really a phase that people go through called retirement drift.
Yeah.
Until you anchor yourself down, you know, in any routine or any focus or any new job or career or any new path, you're just kind of drifting.
You know, the 7 pillars are the path to the discovery phase, but core to that is some of these habits we talk about. And the biggest one that makes a difference in your life is having a routine, a morning routine in particular. And it doesn't have to be at the same time I wake up or Jody wakes up. Whatever time you normally wake up, do not turn on the TV. Do not start scrolling. Find something that's interesting, and the doors will start to open in your life.
Absolutely.
Right. Here's a question from Carlos from New Mexico. I'm 68 and retired just last year. How do I know if I'm drifting or just enjoying rest?
You know,
there
is a juxtaposition between this idea and this concept as soon as you retire that you do just want to like rest, and it's kind of do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with whom I want to do it with. Great. But after all that kind of settles in, you still keep asking yourself, then what? And if you're finding that you're asking yourself, what's next, or then what, or what's today, you're drifting.
You hear us talk a lot on this channel about habits. And maybe you've got some bad habits that you need to break yourself. We created a free download, is below, the 5 bad habits to stop while you're retired. So download that and use that as a tool to break some bad habits. Yeah, I think the drifting part, you'll know, because you can take a day off. We take a day off once in a while, and we'll just say, like yesterday it rained all day. We actually watched a movie in the afternoon for 2 hours. And part of the time when I'm watching, I feel a little guilty because I'm watching TV in the middle of the day. But it's okay, I'm 68 years old and I deserve it. So, but to do that every single day, you're gonna feel different. You're gonna feel unfulfilled. You're gonna feel unsatisfied. You're gonna feel bored and like let's watch another movie. But when you go to bed at night, what you really want to do is, Jody's point is, just think of 3 things you did today that you're grateful you did and it made you happy. And I think you'll start to undrift and follow the 7 pillars. All right, now this is a good question. My wife and I feel like we're living parallel lives after retirement. Oh, this is for me. Mark, how did your vision dates change your relationship? I guess with you, right?
Unless you had dates with someone else.
No, vision date. Paul from Michigan. So we talk about these vision dates where we just had one last night at dinner. We're in New Jersey for the summer now. You can see the background's different and it's raining again, so we're filming inside. We actually like filming in here. It's more comfortable. It's easier, less distraction. In Florida, the garbage trucks would always go by and bother us. But we sit and say, okay, how are we doing? How are we doing with life? How are we doing with the kids? How are we doing with our new home? How do we like the neighborhood? Are we meeting the right people? How do we like the gym? So we play off of each other and challenge each other like, is it working? We're now going to the gym together at 6:30 in the morning. In Florida, I was going at 5 to 6. I'd come home, have coffee with Jody, and then Jody would go from 6:45 to 8, and we'd have coffee again. But now we're going to the gym together, and I actually really like it.
Oh, do you?
I do, and it's
That's good.
It's a gym where it's not Get Cat Fit in Florida.
It's a functional fitness class.
Functional fitness. It's Great Bay
Racket
and Health Club. But we're in there for 45 minutes working hard together, side by side, helping each other out, looking at each other's form.
Moaning
it's
and
different.
groaning.
It's different. And that came from us having a vision date, and I think that's pulling us closer together.
Absolutely. Okay.
All right, here's a question. You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
It's about weight. Am I allowed to ask a question about weight?
Sure.
All right, Jody, you talked about gaining weight and losing routines. How did you get your structure back without feeling like you were going back to work? This is Linda from California. So I think this has to do with your fear of losing health and freedom.
Well, it's interesting. When we retired, if you've watched any of our videos, Mark and I decided that we would do what we were supposed to do, eat and drink and travel and entertain and, say yes to everything. A 50th birthday party in Grand Cayman, sure, we'll go. It was a stark kind of slap in the face for me when our kids were up visiting. And for those of you who are women who have daughters, one of my daughters said to me, you're never in any pictures anymore. You're always kind of hiding, or you're the one taking the pictures. And I remember thinking to myself, why is that? And it was because I didn't feel well. I didn't look well. I was puffy and, overweight. And, I think that for me, I determined that I was personally a routine person, and I needed to set up a schedule and a routine and hold myself accountable. I was accountable for over 35 years in my corporate career, accountable every day, typically 6 or 7 days a week. So to have zero accountability, I took full advantage of that. But I had an internal mechanism that recognized that it wasn't good for me. It wasn't going to be healthy for me. And I was shortening my life, which was not the objective in the discovery years.
Yeah, and it's worked well for you. And we're both continuing to work hard on our health. It's a big top priority.
Yep.
Here's a question from me, so you can ask that one.
Mark, you said retirement is a sacred opening. That really hit me. Can you talk more about how spirituality fits into this new chapter for you? I think that's our last question.
Okay, I grew up as a Presbyterian, and my parents taught Sunday school, and they brought me to Sunday school, and I went to church, and I sang in the choir, and I did the hymns and read the Bible and checked all the boxes. I got married, had kids, took them to a Presbyterian church, and every Sunday we were there, and I got involved in the leadership of the church and did all that. But that was just checking the boxes back then, and I didn't really feel a strong connection to God. I believe in God. That's my personal belief. I never prayed much. But now this spiritual awakening, this new phase that I have, this interest in learning more and going deeper in religion and my relationship with God has been just amazing. And it's never going to end. It's one of those things that, it's not like learning some new tricks in a spreadsheet or shortcuts with ChatGPT or something with a Word document, how to format it quicker. No, this is going inside deep and really connecting with God in a different way that allows me to learn. And what I'm learning in the Bible, a friend of mine said, you're going to learn more about life in the Bible than any other book you ever read. I go, okay, whatever. And then I start reading and I go, oh my gosh, I remember there's so many sayings in the Bible that we say nonchalantly, like, red sun at night, sailor's delight, red sun at morn, sailors take mourn. There's something like that in the Bible. We looked this up the other day.
Yeah.
So there's such a connection between my faith, my ability to live differently, to learn more, and to feel blessed for all of the, grateful for everything I have in my life. It really is amazing.
If you like this video,
you're going to love this next one too.
We all strive for retirement to have this freedom and have all of this time. But without structure, that time really becomes a burden. That freedom starts to get a little heavy. And then that's where you find this drift, this, walking around a little bit aimlessly, trying to figure things out. So this list will also help you with that.